welcome back. Today we are going to make some tiger butter, and this tiger butter recipe only uses 3 simple ingredients. So before we get started, go ahead and grab 4 cups of white chocolate, 2 cups of semi-sweet chocolate, and peanut butter. So go ahead and grab those ingredients and we're gonna get started. So for the white chocolate, I'm using white chocolate wafers, and they're actually little rounds that you can buy at the grocery store. So I'm using these because they melt really nicely, but any kind of white chocolate will work just fine. And then for the semi-sweet, I'm just using chocolate chips, semi-sweet chocolate chips. So go ahead and grab these 3 ingredients, and then we're gonna get started. Okay, everybody, so what I need you to do is grab a saucepan that's about this size, and then I need you to fill it with about 2 inches of water. So go ahead and do that. Pause the video if you need to. After that, you're going to bring it to a boil like this. Once it comes to a boil, you're just gonna turn your heat down a little bit. So now I have it on low. So this is really important when we are melting chocolate. So chocolate can be really difficult to melt for a few different reasons. If any moisture hits the chocolate, it could seize up and not melt very well. And if you melt chocolate directly in the saucepan on the stove, it can get too hot and also begin to seize. So I'm using a double boiler, and I encourage you to use this as well. So normally people would have a second saucepan that they would put on top of this, but I don't have that. So I'm taking a large bowl and I am placing it on top. It is a glass bowl, so please make sure that you are using stove safe materials for this bowl, okay? So this is how I melt my chocolate. I use a double boiler type bowl here. So once your water is boiling on the bottom, and once you turn it down just a tiny bit, you're gonna add your 4 cups of white chocolate to this bowl. So I just poured in my 4 cups of white chocolate, and using a wooden spoon, I'm just going to stir this a little bit. So this will get hot. So there's gonna be steam rising from your bowl. Use oven mitts if you feel like you need to, or get a parent or guardian to help you with this step. So pretty much, this is gonna take a little bit here. It takes a while to melt this chocolate fully, but it's important that you do this really carefully because chocolate can seize very easily. So you can already see that my chocolate is beginning to melt. So we're just gonna gently stir this until all of our chocolate has melted. And it's again really important that you keep an eye on it because chocolate can be really difficult to melt. And please be careful as the steam rising from the sides here is hot. So you may want to grab a pair of oven mitts. So my water in here, just to show you, is still boiling. It's on low. I've turned it on low, and I've just set my bowl on top. So we just don't want the chocolate to be directly on the heat. So this could take up to 10 minutes or more to melt all of this. So it's really starting to melt now. as you can see. And I'm just constantly stirring it. Okay, so what I'm gonna get you to do is keep melting this chocolate on your stove. Keep stirring it constantly. Keep your stove on low and just keep stirring it until all of your white chocolate is melted. So about half of mine has melted. So keep melting your chocolate until it's all melted on the stove, and then we're gonna come back. Okay, so it's only been about 2 more minutes and all of my white chocolate is just about melted. So as soon as it's done melting, I'm immediately going to turn off the heat. You don't want to continue melting it once it's all been melted. So you want to take it off the stove immediately once it's all melted. So I'm going to turn off my stove now, give it one last stir, and now we're going to remove it from our stove. And then what I need you to do is get your peanut butter ready to go. So we're gonna need 3/4 cups of peanut butter. So grab your peanut butter, remove your chocolate from the stove, and let's go ahead and add the peanut butter to our chocolate. Okay, so what I have here is my white chocolate that I have removed from the stove. I have my jar of peanut butter, and I have my 1/4 measuring cup. So we're gonna go ahead and measure out 3 of these because we need 3/4 cups of peanut butter. So I'm gonna go ahead and start scooping my peanut butter into my measuring cup here. And I have grabbed a spatula so that I can get all of the peanut butter out of the measuring cup. So there's 1/4. So there's 1. There's 2. And 1 more. There's 3. So as you can see, I kind of did heaping 1/4 cups of peanut butter here. It doesn't need to be perfect. A little more peanut butter, a little less is not gonna change the flavor too much. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my peanut butter aside. And with my wooden spoon, I'm just going to start mixing in the peanut butter into the white chocolate until it's fully incorporated. So just keep stirring. You might need to stir quite a bit here. Like I'm stirring quite fast. I'm stirring quite fast just to make sure that everything is incorporated here. And it's looking like it's coming together really nicely. And it looks like it's fully incorporated here. Okay. Give it one last stir. Okay, so what I need you to do now is I need you to grab an 11 by 7 inch casserole dish. So I'm using, I believe mine is 7 by 11. If you want to use a smaller one or bigger one, that's fine. Just be aware that you will have either, if you use a bigger pan here, you will have a thinner piece of chocolate, Whereas if you have a smaller one, you will have quite a thicker piece of chocolate. So what I've done here is I've just lined my casserole dish with tin foil. And then I've sprayed it with non-stick spray. So I'll give you a second to go and do that now. You may need to pause the video to get this done. So again, that was an 11-inch by 7-inch casserole dish. Okay, so once you've done that, we're gonna take our peanut butter and our white chocolate mixture, and we're just going to add it to this casserole dish. So very carefully, we're going to just pour the peanut butter and white chocolate mixture into our tin foil, onto our tin foil in our pan here. Okay. And then using a spatula, you're just gonna wanna spread it out so it's nice and even in your pan. It should be pretty easy to spread out. Okay, just like that. Perfect. So now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna put this in the fridge for just a little bit while we start to melt our semi-sweet chocolate. So go ahead and put this in the fridge and then grab your semi-sweet chocolate, and then we will get started on melting that. Okay everybody, so we are basically going to repeat the process like we did with our white chocolate. So we are again gonna bring about 2 inches of water in a saucepan to boil. Once it's boiled, we're going to turn it down slightly. So go ahead and put 2 inches of water on your stove to boil. Once you've done that, come back and we're gonna start melting our semi-sweet chocolate. So now that you have your water to a boil, we are again going to put a stove-safe bowl onto the stove here on top of our saucepan. We are going to add in our 2 cups of semi-sweet chocolate. So again, that was 2 cups of semi-sweet chocolate that we just added. And now we're going to do the same thing. We are going to stir it constantly until it's all melted. And as you can see, some of it is already still starting to melt. So this will take about five or so minutes. Again, if the steam rising from the pot here is too hot, go ahead and grab some oven mitts. And we are basically on one of the last steps of this recipe. So as you can see, it's really starting to melt here. Just keep stirring until it's all melted. And the same as we did for the white chocolate, as soon as it's all melted, immediately remove it from the stove. You don't want to just leave your chocolate sitting on the stove to melt when it's already melted fully. So just make sure your stove is on low and just keep stirring. About half of my chocolate has melted now. Okay, it's actually almost there. I'd say in about 1 more minute, all of this chocolate is going to be fully melted. So just keep stirring. You want to be stirring constantly. It's almost there. Okay, so my chocolate is now fully melted, so I'm gonna turn off my stove. Okay, so now what I need you to do is go ahead and grab your white chocolate and peanut butter mixture that you have put in the fridge. Go ahead and grab that now, and then we're gonna remove this from the stove and we're gonna add it to the top of our pan and we're going to make a swirl type pattern. So go ahead and grab your peanut butter and white chocolate mixture from the fridge, remove this from the heat, and let's finish off this recipe. Okay, so you should have grabbed your white chocolate and peanut butter mixture from the fridge. What you'll notice is it hasn't completely set, and that's what we want, because if it had, we wouldn't be able to add in our swirl texture with our dark chocolate. So what I need you to do is grab a butter knife and a couple toothpicks if you'd like to use that as well for some smaller thin lines. So now what we're gonna do, once you grab those, I'm actually just gonna take my wooden spoon here and very gently, I'm just going to kind of put the chocolate on top. So it doesn't need to be perfect because we are going to be swirling it around. So don't worry if you get kind of lots of chocolate on one part and not on other parts, because we are going to swirl it. Sometimes I find that you don't actually need to use all of your dark chocolate here when you make tiger butter, but kind of use your discretion. So I've kind of put my dark chocolate kind of all over the top. Now what I'm gonna do is with the back of my knife, I'm using the bottom here, I'm just gonna start swirling it around like that. And I'm gonna kind of go back and forth, side to side. And it's gonna create kind of this pattern with our chocolate. Kind of like that. And what's really important is you don't want to do this for too long, because if you swirl it in too much, what you're gonna do is you're gonna end up mixing in your dark chocolate and you're not gonna get a really nice pattern. So I actually really like how this is looking, so I'm gonna stop pretty soon here. Just a couple more swirls. Okay. I really like how this turned out, and I'm going to leave it. So I did not use all of my dark chocolate, as you can see. I didn't need to. So I'm gonna leave it exactly like this because I really like how the patterns have formed. So once you've done that, you are just going to actually put this back in the fridge and you are going to let it set completely. So once it is set completely, then you can actually start cutting it into slices. Okay, so thank you so much for tuning into this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please send me photos of your tiger butter. I would love to see how it turned out. And I will post a photo of my results at the end of this video. I will see you next time.